Call to order the Jefferson County Local Development Corporation, privilege of the floor. Minutes from our last meeting. Everyone received the minutes? And is there any additions and or corrections? Any motion?
Yes.
Second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Thank you. Treasurer's report.
Simple one, we're on target to achieve our revenues. The average we're at is 91,500 a month. Break even, or the budget is 91.8 a month, so we're right at under expenses. We're actually spending a little less than what the budgeted amounts were. We're spending about 81,500 a month. The budget is 87,500. So there may or may not be some slight savings like there were last year, but I'm sure the programs will catch up.
Always do
They usually do. So revenue over expenses improved 7,000 from prior month. It's still showing a surplus. That's page 6 of the board package. Page 7, 8, and 9 are blow-ups of the major programs, which comprise the statement we just reviewed. Really nothing significant on any of those particular programs. On page 8 of our board packet, Lyle, I think it looks like some of it did not complete print out, like the budget zeroed out. But then there's expenses, so some columns must have been hidden or something.
I forgot to push the button to put it on there.
All right, I mean,
Yeah.
most of the stuff to the right of the budget column seems,
Yeah, that bottom safety training is a pass-through, of course.
okay. All right, so I mean, just assuming that was just an
Yeah.
error that we did.
Yeah, I have to push a special button to get the budget to print.
Not delete.
It's a technical
No, it's not.
thing.
It looks like
All
it's
right.
deleted.
So page 10 of your board packet, our balance sheet, under quick assets, we're about 142,000 better than prior month. Under receivables, 168,000 lower than prior month. Total current assets, 23,000 lower than prior month. Notably, I've been kind of keeping track of our quick assets. Because of the gain, we're now only 139,000 lower over the last 7 months. So we had been spending our own money, but we kind of caught up a little bit last month.
Yes.
Total assets were lower by 28,000 from prior month. Total liabilities lower by 35,000 from prior month. Total capital up 7,000. Page 17 of your board packet is some of the receivables. It is down 173,000. While I brought this up last month as well, Acadia, is there pressure to pay? I mean, it's $1,000.
As much as we can do, yes.
Okay.
We're just not getting any response.
Should they be advertising our website if they can't pay $1,000? Can someone put some pressure? I mean, they're getting free publicity up the yin-yang from this agency, and we have a $1,000 bill past due for 4 months now.
Part of the reason that we haven't pressed it so hard is because these folks have been doing an awful lot of pro bono work over the last 5 years. So, but to your point, we can't let that stand out in the
Okay.
rod, so we'll get it.
It doesn't, favoritism is
No,
not
no,
good.
no,
right?
it's-
And I
it's a
know
good
that
point.
wasn't your point, but
It's a good point.
it's $1,000. It doesn't set a good example for the other companies. Page 18 of our board packet. I guess Lyle, probably an appropriate time, any update on the 80YM status?
The savings bank is sort of taking the lead on that.
Okay.
We're waiting to see what
Saw some
happens with that.
correspondence on
Yes,
that.
yes.
Okay, so nothing-
This, incidentally, this is a new report. You haven't seen this before? This is a report we're required to post by the Authority Budget Office. So we're including it in your packet every month.
Mhm. Okay. So really nothing new.
No, nothing new. No.
That's the complete report. I would make a motion to accept the report as I presented.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Thank you. Alternative Energy Committee. Got a report?
I can do a report.
We don't want to.
I guess we got together, the Alternative Energy Committee in the county a couple days ago, and we went through a long list of stuff. It was a really good meeting. I don't know if we've actually have any recommendations for the full board yet. I would like our committee to get back together, because we didn't really have a chance to talk with each other after that meeting. It lasted 2.5 hours, so. We real quickly, we talked about things like the 487 real property tax law versus an IDA pilot. We talked about the appraisal firm that we've been using. We talked about the discounted cash flow analysis method. So we talked about a lot of different things, but I really don't have a recommendation for the board at this time. But other than I do want to get our committee back together ASAP and do that.
Do you presume there'd be something in what I'll call the short term, but
Yeah.
undefined term?
Yes.
Okay.
I really don't think we can finish until we see what the county's final policy is, which is close.
Their final, well, yeah, that comes in front of the finance and rules this month, so. But I yeah, in the near future, I would say this month.
Thanks, Bill. It's not on our agenda, but due to I formed the building committee for our Convergence building, an ad hoc committee, to help study and figure out, give us some best use plan for that, so, yeah.
We met there a couple weeks ago there, and Don's working on a performer for us, and square foot rates around the area, so that we're not undercutting somebody else, so we're competitive with everybody else, I guess. So we're just waiting on that from Don, and we'll meet again.
Ken, who's on the committee? Because your email said who the chair was, but it didn't say who was on the committee.
I'm on.
Okay. I wasn't sure.
Greg's on there.
I assumed it was for our board. I said I assumed it was from our board.
Yes.
You just named, said count as
Right.
chair, and then
Board
you didn't
members,
say-
right.
I didn't know if it was a one-man committee or.
My bad.
Could have been.
Sorry about that. I get putting that so many
There's
things
always
out
a
there.
quorum, it's just a one-man committee.
Just don't disagree with yourself.
They are, Concentrix is officially vacating on the 30th of September. However, there's some discussion they may vacate earlier, and so we're putting together a range of options and so on for the committee to consider, and hopefully that'll be sooner rather than later. We're doing, as Kent suggests, a pro forma to examine the possibilities of one of two choices, basically. Either to sell the facility and take the proceeds and do whatever. The other would be to continue to lease the facility and manage it in perpetuity. So we'll look at the financial implications of either of those choices and then make a decision as to which is best and then how to proceed down whatever course we the committee, and you, the board, think is the best approach.
Thanks. Manufacturing, Dave?
Pretty much, we wrapped up our safety training program, so we ended up with about 300 or so participants there. The committee did not meet last week. We'll maybe take the opportunity and maybe just share with you, I went to the International Economic Development Conference last month in Salt Lake City. Attended a lot of good sessions there, some stuff to follow up on. But there's a lot of talk there, not surprisingly, about workforce and sort of the new currency and this whole trend toward what they call the new collar workers. You got blue collar, tech, and white collar, and this blend of technical and IT skills and such. Well, good, interesting session on the airport and the whole how the growing importance of airports in terms of economic development in the community and how airport aviation planning has to be integrated with everything else. So I think it's kind of, again, good to see what the county's doing with the airport, but perhaps emphasizes again for us the importance of what we're trying to do with developing the business complex near the airport and how those can work together. And just a lot of talk and resources about looking toward data gathering being important. You know, we're trying to navigate this economy that doesn't exist yet, and kind of the expense of data gathering, but trying to find that. So I think some helpful stuff there as we look at moving forward with the county and doing the next comprehensive economic development strategy, and maybe changing some of our approaches there as we do that. So good, you know, useful offer. So.
Questions for Dave? Thanks, Dave. Marketing, Marshall.
Good morning, everyone. I want to touch on a couple of things. The cross-border conference, number one, that went very well. I was so pleased with the attendance. The speakers were really outstanding. It was a great program. Sessions were very well received, and we also had some great direction on the next steps. And I'll just kind of list some of those off real quick. Some possible more engagement with customs officials, and you know, one of the comments was AI being used more in the future. You know, that's an obvious. Some success stories, some failures people want to talk about potentially. Trend sharing between agency people, and having a boot camp session for cross-border businesses on best practices, possibly forming a LinkedIn group, and again, bringing custom officials in to discuss new NAFTA regs, the USMCA, I believe, and possibly a speed networking event. Those are kind of the next steps, but it was a really great program. As Ken mentioned, the concentric facility, I'm working on one sheet with some local businesses on the technology side. I have that in sort of draft form now, and we have a couple of different things that we're working on with that building and possibilities and bright future, I would say. And I also want to comment on our second video that is in process. I have another meeting with the vendor this afternoon on that, and sort of got put on the back burner for June. It was an absolutely insane month, and we have a number of CFAs we're working on, and we're very busy. Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, can I just spring off one comment? Marsh put together such a tremendous program for this cross-border conference that I had one of the guest speakers, who was an expert in his own right, tell me that he stayed for the program because the other speakers were so good. And I don't think in all the years I've been attending any conferences that other speakers have stuck around to hear what the rest of them say. They all think they're experts, but in this case it was a battery, very interesting people. There was one particular Canadian lawyer who I thought was just absolutely outstanding.
He was outstanding.
I know some of the board members were there as well.
And he had one single slide on the oh geez, can I get your PowerPoint up? And he said, oh yeah, you know, and you know, put it up, and it was just one slide, and I was like, oh my goodness, he's supposed to go an hour, and he did, and was long but engaging. And it was really outstanding. And I thought the keynote, Pierre stayed and talked to people afterwards, and he was there for pretty much the whole program, and I thought that was great. So
One slide PowerPoint?
one slide.
One slide.
I like that guy already.
It was a pretty detailed slide.
Yeah, the slide was I mean, it was more of like the screen with all this stuff on it, but
You know, the Venn diagram?
yeah, exactly. But it was a great program, and thank you very much for the support on that.
Well done.
Well done,
Just-
congratulations.
Just note two aspects to follow up on that. One, we'll be having direct follow-up with our counterparts from Kingston, Rockville area, getting together, kind of go over the notes and next steps in terms of what we can do on this end of the region. Also, as part of the annual CFA process, where the North Country competes against the rest of the state, we're working with our counterparts across the North Country to develop a plan for maybe doing a similar thing. I mean, we're continuing our own thing with our folks here across the border in Ontario, but also looking at the whole North Country and its relationship with our Canadian counterparts, and what we can do to kind of promote more of that cross-border conference. So we're kind of paralleling this on a regional basis as well as our own kind of local issue as well. So.
Any other questions for Dave and Marshall? Jay?
Well, good morning, everybody. It's raining out again. Just thought I'd share that with you. I think everybody has received a copy of the executive summary that came from a Jefferson County Ag Development Council meeting this past week. If you did not receive it, let me know and I'll make sure that you get a copy. Right now, as you might have seen, we are dealing with a very difficult situation on top of all the other difficult situations in regards to weather impacts on our farms, on our cropping systems. The Ag Development Council, which is the advisory council to help guide us in our programming for agriculture, issued a statement that right now there's very serious concern that agriculture is facing a severe threat of not having or having feed shortages for this coming fall, winter, and spring and into 2020, and then the impacts of that will still be felt for the next 2 to 3 years beyond that. It's a very serious situation that our farms are facing. I don't want to understate that. It is a very serious situation. The corn that did get planted is very threatened by any adverse weather. If we go more than 5 days without rain, that could have a serious impact on the crop. If we have a windstorm, that could have a serious impact on the crop. It's at its this growing season. It will be a very weak crop. The root mass is very shallow. It didn't develop down into the soil. We're already seeing high pest impacts. I was just talking with a vegetable farmer on the way in, and where he normally grows concerned about two or three counts of insects on a plant, he's seeing 50 or more critters on a plant right now. He was going out spraying this morning. So the crop is at a very sensitive situation for the rest of the growing year. We need as perfect a season as we can get. So, what's the outcome of all of that gloom and doom news? Our role here with our agency, with my position, is to sort of take that broad look, to provide that overall look at what's going on and make sure that the issues are getting addressed by all of the parties that can possibly bring something to the table. As a result of Tuesday's meeting, one of the concerns that came up, not completely weather related, but could exacerbate very easily the weather situation, is an agency where their county, a USDA agency here in Jefferson County, where their executive director is transferring out by the end of the month. The program technician that's been there for years and does a fantastic job will take that position over, but she's being transferred out for 6 months for training. They have another technician in the office who is brand new, and that leaves just that one person in the office. That was the report we received on Tuesday. As a result of our meeting, because when our group heard that, they voiced their strong concerns about that situation. The executive director for the agency went back out from the meeting, immediately was on the phone with state office personnel, and they came up with a much better staffing plan of bringing in seasoned people on a rotational basis to make sure that they were providing the staffing to deliver the programs that will be critical during this time. They were going to be critical anyways because of the dairy pricing problems that we've had. But now with this weather issue, it's going to be even more critical that they deliver their programs in as timely a fashion as possible. So that was one quick result. County Legislature Board Chairman Scott Gray was in attendance. He is currently getting in contact with Ag and Markets. We will be working with him to draft letters to send to the governor and to the Secretary of Agriculture, notifying them of the situation. Katie Malinowski from the Tug Hill Commission has been in touch with another person in the governor's office as of yesterday. We've initiated a dialogue there. So there's a lot of things that have now been put into motion as a result of this meeting. So I just want to share that with you because, again, you know, we think of ourselves as an economic development agency, which we are. We think of ourselves as a marketing agency for the county. But in agriculture, we provide that 60,000 foot level view of what's going on. And our responsibility, as given by the Jefferson County Board of Legislators in 1999, is to coordinate to oversee the delivery of whatever resources are necessary to support the agricultural industry. So we are currently in action doing that in a very, in a severe situation. Hopefully we will have a very good growing season and that will alleviate some of the concerns. Going forward, we've got that executive summary that you received. I'll be working with the other agencies. As soon as the crop reporting is done to USDA, we'll be gathering that information to provide a more comprehensive picture of what the actual crop planting was like, you know, how far behind are we, how little got planted, and we'll be putting together a comprehensive report that will then allow us to also initiate other programs and potentially disaster declarations through USDA and other agencies. So it's what you're seeing is a situation where all of the agencies are now at the table, working together. Everybody is at the same point as far as being aware of what this, you know, what's going on out there, and we'll continue to move that forward. So that's my report. A lot of other stuff going on, but that's the big thing I wanted to share with you. Paul?
Quick question, this isn't solely a Jefferson County issue. Are you
No.
working with other county agencies to broaden the vision of the impact?
Right.
When you start talking about disaster declarations?
Right. Very good question. I have not initiated that myself, but I will be talking with Cooperative Extension because they have more of the regional outreach than I do. We are the only entity with this kind of role throughout New York State. So I'll reach out to Extension. Yeah, we will be doing that.
I forget the
Yes.
attendance, they were at the meeting.
They were at the meeting, absolutely, absolutely. And Mike Hunter serves as a regional staff person as an agronomist to the North Country. But you're absolutely right. The North Country is probably the hardest hit place in New York State, but Western New York is also suffering the same problems. So it's a statewide issue. It's more than just Jefferson County. Any other questions?
Thanks, Jay.
Thank you.
Unfinished business.
Is the Clayton program under LDC or IDA?
It's LDC.
LDC.
Has any applicants come forward?
No,
Because isn't there construction starting in
No.
September?
no.
No, it's not anymore?
No, it will be
Oh.
starting this fall, but
Okay,
I think right now everyone is focused on the flooding.
okay. I was just curious about
We're watching.
How's that working? Flooding this year and construction next year?
It's not going to be
Not
pretty.
good.
The only other business, Mr. Chairman, might be to remind the board that our agencies will be subjected to a controller's audit in the near future. I don't know exactly when that will occur. We're hopeful that Joy will be back on staff by that time, because running short staff, that makes things a little bit more difficult. But frankly.
So if Lyle disappears, we should not read anything into it.
I just don't want to be sent to jail.
No. On the contrary, Paul, I think we see him disappear over the horizon, we're all in trouble.
Bill, were you bringing up something about the high water program?
Yeah, I mentioned that to you, Don. We were gonna bring that up about a similar type loan possibly.
Yes, you did mention that, yeah, do you want to chat about it and?
This is the place, right? This-
Yeah, sure, this would be, through the LDC, would be, go ahead, it was your notion, it's
Well,
a good idea.
it was, I've actually heard this from 2 or 3 different people, but a similar type program that we were just talking about with the Clayton high water or with the Clayton construction is with the high water issues. Is there possibly something that we could do as an agency to help those businesses that are being affected by high water?
Well, I personally think the notion is a good one. I don't know what the range of funds we would have to do it, but I think, clearly the impact on many of our shoreline businesses has been dramatic. It's just incredible how difficult it's become for some of these people. And frankly, there are a couple of businesses that I've chatted with that they're on the slippery slope right now. So the question is, because some of them are still trying to recover from 2017. They haven't even gotten that much recovered yet. They borrowed to cover repairs and so on. And insurance is only covered just so much. So anyway, there is an impact out there,
So it would be pretty easy to mirror the program we put together for Clayton.
if that
How
were.
did we reserve funds for that? Sorry.
We
It's just
haven't
coming out of general
specifically,
funds.
yes.
Okay, so,
Yeah,
I
we
mean,
haven't.
obviously it's limited, the construction programs are fairly finite,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
this is much
It-
grander.
Yeah, as we get closer, I think we will probably have to review that and maybe designate a specific amount. We don't have unlimited funds. That's the problem.
The two,
You don't print money?
Not yet. Not until after the controller's audit.
Is the county putting in for a ready grant, Bill?
The county itself?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure with roads and stuff, yes.
Could something be added to that to create a fund administered by the LDC to do what you're talking about? Add that to the ready grant, because if they continue to refer to this as the new normal, it's more than, the ready grant's designed for governmental agencies and communities to prepare for the new normal, not for the businesses. So maybe a grant or something through the ready grant to be administered where it can go out to the individuals so they can prepare for the new normal, the businesses.
it's a good idea.
Because in the past, in 2017, they had the funds that were administered by the neighbors of Watertown that helped property owners build seawalls and upgrade their protection. But I don't believe that was anywhere near enough money at that point to deal with the commercial side of it. I mean, you go down to, take Sackett's Harbor, Navy Point probably has 70 empty boat slips this year.
Yeah.
That's 2 out of the last 3 years. Think the impact there. What would it cost to raise a boathouse so with the high water you can
And that's up and down the river,
so maybe that's a discussion you could have with planning or whoever's heading up the ready grant. Is there a potential to put into the ready grant application funding that could be administered by, I don't care if it's the planning or this agency, to do just what we're talking about? So there's more funds than we could ever make available.
Yeah, we would be the sub-recipient as we are with all of our loan funds right now.
Because quite honestly, while we're looking at Clayton's program, we expect 10, 15 applications top. You put a program out there county-wide for us to administer, it'd probably be in the dozens, if not more.
You could have 50 people easily, that's 200.
You surely could.
And so it's a huge amount of money. And $5,000, quite honestly, for these businesses, is not even gonna cut it.
No.
And I think that was our limit
For
for
Clayton.
Clayton.
Yes, it was.
I mean, just what I looked at on my waterfront, with just the materials was $20,000. Okay, before you start talking about putting it in. So But I guess I've decided it's cheaper to buy topsoil every year than to. But, so, I think it would make sense to see if we could.
County, or Scott, whoever's.
That would be
I
my
had
2
to know-
cents.
I had to know
We
too
would
about
not
the
have
grant.
enough money in our coffers to cover the demand for what's coming from the businesses, if this truly is a new role.
Does FEMA cover any of this?
Not that it's been determined, John.
I think
I'm
it's more statewide. I mean, Cuomo's been here a few times, so he's clearly vocal. He's been
There's some
once.
discussion, as you say, that the lieutenant governor was here and expressed some concern and interest, but where that's manifested itself. Do you want us to do some research, Bill and Paul, and see if we can, I happen to think Paul
it's a
is
board
right.
decision,
It'd be
but I-
interesting to find out where we can get some supplemental funds.
You know,
Yeah,
the-
it's great. The problem is if we get 100 applicants, at $5,000 a pop.
Exactly.
We probably
It's a
don't have the
Band-Aid.
funds to cover that, and $5,000 aren't going to really, I mean, just reading what was in the newspaper, there's dishwashing stations set up in containers and
it's
stuff like that.
terrible.
I mean, it's like, there's obviously significant funds being expended to just stay in business that are break-even businesses to begin with, probably.
When you consider the fact that Jefferson County has more shoreline than any other county in the state, among other wonderful attributes, you know that's going to be a major impact. So if you like, we'll do some research with an eye toward how the agency can participate. If we can become sub-recipient again for a grant or something like that, we'd certainly do it. The only problem I would suggest is there's a certain element of urgency with this, I think, so we would have to put something together as best we can and then get it out to you by email and then decide whether you need special meetings or whatever it is you need.
As an additional question, I don't know if it's an action item, it's more of a question, do we have an outreach to say the town supervisors to ask if they feel this is a worthy program? Because they're gonna have to get the word to the business, I mean,
Agreed.
to get the word to the businesses, they're gonna be probably through the towns.
Right.
I think the work in business will go in a hurry.
Yeah.
Get something
Yeah.
put together.
And
you okay
sometimes they're
with that?
better at getting word out to their business community than others too. I mean, it depends, I think sometimes it depends on the town,
Yeah.
the supervisor.
There's actually another meeting.
One thing I forgot to mention, and it ties into your discussion, is I initiated a conversation with Scott Gray and Bob Hageman about tying agriculture into any disaster relief type efforts dealing with the coastal flooding, because the same issues that partially cause the shoreline problems are also the cause of the agricultural problems. And so I'm awaiting Bob Hageman. Apparently there's a meeting coming up this week that they're going to be discussing this. And then afterwards, he and I will be having a conversation about what's happening. I strongly I'm out of line here, but I'm going to say I really think it's a good idea for our efforts to tie in all together and trying to be a conduit for funding for disaster relief. The only thing that should be engaged, and I don't know if the county's considered this or not, but with shoreline erosion issues, you have an agency in the county that has expertise in that in the Soil and Water Conservation District. And I don't know if they've been engaged in all of these conversations yet. They should be if they haven't, because that's their expertise. And they, all over New York State, when there's flooding and washouts and so on, they're usually called in to help fix those problems. So they have expertise in that. I don't know if they've been engaged in this or not, but they should be if they haven't. So there's certainly a role to play. We're sort of was ahead of the things here with engaging for agriculture, but I would support whatever we can do.
We'll do some investigation and see what we can figure out and then share that with you folks.
Sounds good. Anything else for the LDC?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion, do I have a second? All in favor, aye?
In case you don't know where we are, we're gonna